Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for being here in person and those of you that are joining us online. We appreciate your attendance here at today's session. Today is our fifth Brown Bag Summer Series session, and a few items just to remind folks of. If you have any questions or you're having any issues, feel free to drop those in. I believe it's the Q&A that we're using. We are not using the chat, so feel free to put questions, comments in the Q&A section. And for those of you that are here in person, if you have not signed the attendance sheet, feel free to stop back at the back table and do so. I think that takes care of. Oh, and next week, I was asked to remind everyone that next week is our last session, our last presentation in the Summer Brown Bag series, and that is actually going to be taking place in the Class of 62 auditorium. So we will not be in this location, which we've been in for the entire summer. We will be over there. There will be information coming out in all of the notifications, but just wanted to put that on your radar. So today we have the honor of having with us Diane Schenandoah. And Diane is a member of the Wolf Clan Oneida Nation. And she is a part, which is a part of the, oh my goodness, we just practiced this, the Haudenosaunee Confederacy. And so we're very honored to have her here today to share some of her experiences and creating her peace within, our peace within, walking us through this process. She is an indigenous healer and who works for Syracuse University. She is in the counseling department there, and so we're very honored to have her here. And there are some things that I'm leaving out intentionally because I don't want to butcher the names of things. And so she will walk us through what interpretations for names are. And yeah, so please join me in welcoming Miss Diane Schenandoah.
Thank you very much. Hello, good afternoon, morning, afternoon. I'm so honored to be here. My name is Diane Schenandoah, Tikanatjawit Ninyan Getz. I'm part of the Oneida Nation. And first off, I'd like to start off by acknowledging our Seneca brothers. I know they had a beautiful land acknowledgement up here, which was really wonderful. But whenever we come into each other's territory, we like to acknowledge them and are very grateful that we are still here. So as part of our teachings, we always like to start out with a Thanksgiving address. The Thanksgiving address to the Haudenosaunee is a very important piece to who we are as Indigenous people on Mother Earth, because being grateful, living in gratitude is so key and important to having peace within. Being grateful for all that we've been giving. Mother Earth provides all that we need. So in our Thanksgiving address, we first start out thanking Mother Earth herself, herself for providing all that we need. So we say thank you to the waters. The waters are still drinkable. The waters are there. We say thank you to the waters and all that live in the waters. It's very, very important that we acknowledge all living things, as Mother Earth is a living being as well. So we give thanks to the waters, and then we move to all that live in the water. We move to the grasses, all that live in the grasses, the earth, all that live in the dirt, in the soil. And we move to the medicine plants, all of the medicine plants that provide healing to us. We give thanks to all of the food plants, all the food that's provided to us. And it's important that we talk about these things because we can go through our life, busy as it is, forget about all the things that we do have and rush here, rush there, breeze by the trees, not acknowledging they're a being as well. The plants are a living being as well. So it's very important that we acknowledge these living things. All of our ceremonies are opened with a Thanksgiving address. So as we move forward, we give thanks to the plant life, to the medicine life, to the fruit trees, to the trees and all that live in the trees, to the animals that live among the grasses, that live among the trees, the four-legged, all of the animals that provide us with food, provide us with shelter, with clothing. And again, I say that it's very important that we give thanks to these things. So we move on up into all that is in the sky. We give thanks to the winds, and we give thanks to all of the winds that move the seeds around, that help pollinate the earth. We give thanks to the elements, to the thunders, to the lightning, to being all of these that regenerate the earth, to the protectors. We give thanks to those that guide us. We say our ancestors are always with us and guide us in all that we do. So we give thanks and acknowledge to the ancestors. And we give thanks for the people here, for each other, give thanks for all that come in our path. And most of all, we give thanks to the Sungwai the creator, maker of all. So in our teachings, we talk about our ancestors and our guides that guide us in all that we do, all that we are. We say that we have protectors. Am I talking loud enough?
Yes, we have people who are not able to hear on that.
Oh dear. Sorry.
Your mic is there, but feel free to yell.
Okay. Sorry. I know I tend to talk a little softer when I start talking. So we give thanks to the people. In our teachings, we say that nothing happens by accident. Everything happens for a reason. We meet each other for a reason. And whether it's just a fleeting moment or whether it's lifelong partners, whether it's our siblings, our family, everything happens for a reason. And it was designed when we come here for lessons, life lessons of each other. So when we meet each other, sometimes you meet people that you think, wow, I really connect with them. I really understand. I met this fantastic person. It's for a reason. It's for a lesson that we can learn from each other, even if it's a brief moment. So when I talk about everything happens for a reason and for a life lesson, this is what we're to pay attention to as we walk on our journey, because our journeys are meant to be lived in joy, lived in happiness. And when we can stay connected and give gratitude and thanks for all that we've been given, that's how we come to find that peace and that joy. So in our teachings, we say that when we come here with magnificent gifts. We are magnificent human beings. We come here with incredible gifts. And I hear so many people saying, oh, I can't draw a stick figure. Oh, I can't sing a note. I have a flat voice. And this is where, if something that you've always wanted to try it. Because creativity is part of our joy. Creativity and being creative. When you walk into a restaurant, what is the first thing they hand a little kid? A coloring book and crayon, right? And that little guy will sit there, little girl will sit there and color and just so focused in on their coloring and just so busy, their chicken nuggets will grow cold and it doesn't matter. They just want to color because we are naturally creative beings. So when they start the school system, the teacher is, put that down. It's not time to play. It's not time to fool around. You quit fooling around and playing. So we tend to get tamped down as children. So as we become adults, we think, oh, it's foolish. I don't have time to draw. I don't have time to paint. Well, I used to like to draw. I used to like to paint. I don't have time for that anymore because we get so caught up in what we're doing in our daily lives that we kind of skip that part of our well-being, of our healing. So at Syracuse University, I'm Hoa Dianawasik, which means one who helps them. And they call it Indigenous healer. I say only the creator is the healer. So I like to do energy work. And because we are all energetic beings, we carry this amazing energy with us. Like I said, we carry these amazing gifts. We come here with these incredible abilities, yet we get tamped down and forget about it. So at Syracuse University, I work with the students, not just the Indigenous students. I work with all the students there, and I help with spiritual advising, trying to remind people that we are put on this earth to love and care for one another, to have compassion for one another, to have understanding for one another. So when we walk through our lives, yes, things happen, but it's for a reason, for a specific reason, whether it's a lesson, whether it's a life lesson, whether it's whatever it may be, that certain things happen. It's up to us to be responsible for our energy and the energy that we put out. Now, in today's society and today's political realm, which I won't go there, but it's so easy to get caught up in what is going on, in beginning to live in fear, beginning to live in that, what do we do now? Or, oh, what's going to happen? Instead of forgetting where we are right in front of us, right in the moment. Because at the end of the day, that's all that we have. We have right now, the present. This is what we have. And it's up to us to be responsible for that energy that we carry. When you come across somebody that is miserable in their job, you know, and you can feel their energy, it's like, whoa, okay, and it doesn't feel very well. But when we can be responsible for energy and who we are as human beings and how we can conduct and care for one another, compassion is so key. Loving is so key. Among our teachings, we say that the Haudenosaunee Confederacy wasn't always a cohesive confederacy. Across the United States, and maybe many of you have heard this before, but there were a lot of warring nations going on here. The Oneidas, the Onondagas, the Cayugas, the Senecas, the Mohawks, and the Tuscaroras who were adopted in the 1700s. But there was a lot of war going on here. And there was a fellow named Wenta, and he had all of his daughters murdered by an evil chief named Taradaho. And when this happened, they say that he was so grieved, so heavy-hearted, that he wandered around for days, weeks, months, couldn't eat, couldn't think, couldn't sleep, just couldn't function. And they say that finally he just wanted to end his life. He just couldn't take it anymore, so he threw himself into a lake. And when he did, they say that the geese lifted the water away. And at the bottom of this lake, there was the quahog shell, the wampum shell. Some say it was cedar. I mean, this story, this teaching varies a little bit, but he found that shell. Now, again, we say everything happened for a reason. So when he saw that shell there, he knew that he had to do something to help lift his grief, because he knew he wasn't the only one going through this. So he began to create a ceremony. Now, close by was a lady named Jagunsase. She was our first grandmother. And she was one that used to kind of feed on the trauma, the drama of what was going on. But everyone was so tired of it. It was just so tiresome of going through all of this horrible war and killing. So Haim Wenta, as he picked up that shell, he thought, I need to find a way to heal. I need to find a way to heal this grief and live life again. So he took that shell and he began to make beads. Now, again, I say this is a very brief part of a very long teaching. Some of our teachings take 10 to 12 days, 2 weeks to tell. So this is a very brief part of this. So he took that shell and he made the first bead. And he sat there for a while and he thought, if I was to come across somebody grieving as much as I am, I would want them to take the softest skin of the deer and wipe the tears from my eyes. So I'd be able to see all the beauty around me. I'd be able to see all the amazing things the Creator has given to me. Then he made another bead, creating a ceremony. And he said, this second bead is going to represent the eagle feather. I would want somebody to take this feather and brush the sounds of death from my ears. So I'd be able to hear the beautiful birds singing. I'd be able to hear all the amazing things in nature there are to hear. Then he created a third bead. The third bead, he said, this was going to represent water. If I was to come across somebody grieving as much as I am, I would want them to hand me a drink of water so I could wash that lump down in my throat. So I'd be able to talk. I'd be able to sing. I'd be able to communicate with another human being. So this is just a little brief bit of this story as I tell you. But this was the beginning of creating the grieving ceremony. And so when this ceremony was being done, they say the peacemaker came down through the woods and asked him what he was doing. And Haim Wenta described to him what was going on. And mind you, Jagunsase was there as well, listening to all of this. And they say when the peacemaker came down, he asked him, what are you doing? He described his steps to the ceremony that he was creating. And the peacemaker said, well, we're going to add to this ceremony. He said, we're going to make another bead. And this next bead is going to represent forgiveness. You have to be able to forgive in order to have peace within. You need to be able to forgive. So Hein went to thought. He made another bead. And the next bead, the peacemaker said, this next bead is going to represent love, because you cannot do anything without love. You cannot heal without love. So that was the beginning of the condolence ceremony. So that's also part of our great law, is to forgive with love. That's how we have peace within. That's how we come to have peace within. So as he made this, he was so thrilled to know of a way to relieve his grief, to let up his grief. Jagunsa Se's ears perked up. She wanted to be part of this because she was tired of the killing and the destruction as well. So they decided to go back to this evil chief who had killed all of his daughters. Together they went, and Tadadaho was so crazed, so filled with hatred that he chased them out of there. I'll kill you too, chase them out of there. So they went to the other nations first, and they told them, this is how we can come to have peace among our people, through love and forgiveness. So they went to the other nations, the Oneidas, the Onondagas, the Senecas, and the Cayugas and the Mohawks. Collectively, they went together, and they all went to Tadadaho again. But this time they were singing him songs of love, telling him that they forgave him for all the evil things that he did. And they say that he was so moved, so incredibly moved by this act, that he fell to the ground crying. He didn't think he was lovable. We don't know why he was so evil. Maybe he was abandoned at birth. Maybe some horrible things happened to him. We don't know why. But as he did this, they say that the women stepped forward, and they say he used to tie snakes in his hair to scare people. And so the women would remove those snakes, comb his hair, combing of the hair. And as a collective, they all agreed there would be war no more among the Haudenosaunee people. And so when you see the Haudenosaunee symbols, you'll see the great white pine, the white pine tree, that where all of our weapons of war are buried underneath this white pine. And they say that a fast-moving river is moving underneath this white pine, and that will take all of our weapons of war away. So this teaching is part of our great law that we still live by today, that we need each other as a collective. And all of the leadership at that time held hands around that great white pine tree, so that white pine tree would never be uprooted, so there could be peace among our people. So this law is still in effect today. We still have 50 chiefs that sit in council. Each nation has a certain number of chiefs that come together and sit in council and continue to our great laws of peace, continue to tell of how we're supposed to live. And again, I say these teachings go on sometimes for 12, 14 days. So I told you an incredibly brief part of our teachings. But I wanted to share some of my artwork with you, because this work here is very connected to my culture. But if you'll see the sculpture on the right there, he's holding what is a snapping turtle. Now the snapping turtle is very symbolic to the Haudenosaunee, because we say that sky women, that we're star beings, and we came from the sky world. And it was the turtle that volunteered to be the back for sky women to land on. So we refer to the earth as Turtle Island. So in this particular sculpture, he's holding a rattle made from the snapping turtle. And they say that when that snapping turtle hits the bench at the beginning of our ceremonies, that all of nature listens. Because like I said, everything is alive, everything has energy. And that's when we start giving our Thanksgiving address, giving thanks for all of things. All of our ceremonies revolve around giving thanks, because that is part of our instructions to live in gratitude, live in peace, to live and be grateful for all that we've been given. These next sculptures, the one on the far left, that represents when spring first comes. Those seeds first open up. They come to life. They open up. That's when we're supposed to give thanks. We have a ceremony, the planting ceremony, when all of those seeds start to open up. The middle piece is Sky Woman. She represents that energy, that woman, the first female, the first woman here. You're going to say she represents Sky Woman. The next sculpture over is that cohesiveness, that togetherness. As human beings, we all need each other. We're all connected. Sometimes people feel alone, but we're never alone. In our teachings, we say that our ancestors are always with us, guiding us, protecting us. When we pay attention to our intuition, when we pay attention to what is going on in our lives, when they say you get a uneasy feeling, don't go down that road, that's actually our guides, our ancestors protecting us and watching over us. So that's part of our teachings, that we're never alone. This next piece in front of me a few years ago are the two singers that holding those turtle rattles, hitting that bench when they began that ceremony. The piece on the top there are twins. My mother was an identical twin, and so I feel doubly blessed that I had two moms, which I was very fortunate to have. And motherhood, the women are held at a higher elevation only because life flows through us. We are life givers. It is the women that choose our leadership. It is the women that remove our leadership if they're not paying attention to the people. Imagine what a different kind of world we would have today if that were the case. The women are the keepers of the land, of the home, and we're very influential in the women's suffrage movement, which I'll show you a sculpture from there in a minute. Of course, here's more mother and babies. I have 5 children. My oldest son, Seb, here with me. And I have 4 sons and 1 daughter. So I did a lot of mother and children because they're incredible gifts that were able to come through us and share these teachings of love. This next piece over to your left, that's called the 3 sisters, the corn, the beans, and the squash. These are sustainers of life. These 3 together combined create a complete nutritional value for us, the corns, the beans, and the squash. They help each other grow. The corn provides a shade, the squash provides a shade on the bottom. The beans can grow up the stalks of the corn. And corn was a very big staple within our people. So this is called the 3 Sisters, and that's a sculpture down in Connecticut. This next one over to your right, that's the round dance, holding that circle together with each other around that tree, holding together that we lift each other up, that we need each other, always reminding us that we need each other, constantly reminding us, because we can look down on people or we can forget about those that need us. But it's part of our duty as human beings, being responsible for our energy, to take care of one another, care for each other. So that one is called the round dance. The next pieces here is back very earlier pieces when I first started carving. And a lot of this represents, different phases of that I was going through with my artwork and kind of finding myself in the arts. And I was very fortunate that my mother was an artist and encouraged me greatly to do the arts, to continue in arts. My father was a jazz guitarist for Duke Ellington. So I would sing with my sisters, and for over 40 years, I traveled the world with her. She was one of the first natives to win a Grammy, Diane Schenandoah. She passed, unfortunately, a few years ago. But I was very blessed to travel with her and listen to her incredible voice. And if you get the chance, I would suggest you Google her name, Diane Schenandoah. And her music was played in healing centers, birthing centers, just incredibly soothing music. And again, that was one of her gifts. Her native name was Tigalawakwak, which means that she sings. So she's an amazing, amazing singer, and I was very honored to travel with her way back when I first started doing my artwork. So we were fortunate enough to sing at the Vatican over in Rome. We sung at Carnegie Hall. We sung around the world, and I don't want to just keep name dropping, but But it was really an amazing, amazing time. This piece here is called transformation. Now, in our teachings, there was a time that we didn't know all the medicines, all of the things in the forest of how they would heal us and how we could benefit from all of the different plant lives. So they say there was a time that the peacemaker came to our people, and he posed as a very, very sick elderly man, and he came to one of the nations, and he was very, very ill. And they say that he went to the Wolf Clan and was looking for help and looking for food. And the Wolf Clan, well, I've got too many people here already. I can't help you. I'm sorry. And then they say that he went on to the Turtle Clan, and the Turtle Clan, same thing. I've got too much going on here. I can't, we can't help you. We've got too many things going on in our clan, too many things happening here in our nation to help you. And they say he was a very sick, very old man. He went over to the Bear Clan, and the Bear Clan took him in. There was a young woman there. She took him in. She sat him down. She fed him. She made him some new clothes. There was holes in his leggings and his moccasins. She helped him, and she repaired his clothing. And he began to feel better. He laid down and went to sleep. Well, the very next morning, there he was, very, very ill. And so he told her what plants to go out and pick out in the woods, out in the forest. Pick this medicine and it looks like this. So she would go out in the woods. She'd pick these different medicines that he told her, and she would come back and he'd tell her how to prepare them. She would prepare them, give them to him, and he would become well. And then the very next night, the same thing happened again. And this repeatedly happened over and over. The next morning, he would be very ill again, and he would tell her where to go and what medicines to pick and how to prepare them. And she would do this. So this happened every morning for quite some time. But what happened is she was learning these medicine plants. She was learning how to care for them. And because of this kindness and this generosity that she gave to him with her food and with her love and compassion, they said that now the Bear Clan would be our healers. The Bear Clan would know the medicines. They will become the healers. So the majority of our medicine people are from the Bear Clan because they have that wisdom, that knowledge of the woods. So this piece is called transformation because that energy exchange of knowing how to heal, of knowing what medicine plants to use. This piece here on your far left, that is made from caribou pelvic bone. And I began carving bone way back, and the face is carved from a moose head. And that kind of represents a spirit within. We all have a spirit within us that that kind of moves our emotions when we feel sad, when we feel happy. That spirit within us is always at work. And so paying attention to what is within us, what is going on in our feelings and our thoughts and our energy, how we're conducting ourselves, how we feel a part of that energy. So that's what that piece represents. The piece in the center represents the four directions, the four beings that watch over us and protect us, the four directions that carry the energy to us. That represents that, and they're conferring and making sure that we're looked after, we're watched after. Then again, the piece on your far right are the bears again, in honor of the bears being those healers in the cave that they live within. This again is a piece of a mother and baby, and the pot there is carved from Minnesota pipestone, and this is maple wood from local upstate New York. And this, of course, was a few years ago, one of my flyers I did. This again here is representative of Sky Woman. The piece on your right is Sky Woman, and the piece on the left is from the driftwood of the Tennessee River Basin, and duck feathers. And I try and use a lot of natural materials because the natural materials are there. I don't cut down fresh trees, or I don't, I try to use just strictly natural materials. This piece here is called the ever-growing piece, the ever-growing tree. That's what this piece represents. And when we talk about the ever-growing peace, the messages of peace are for everyone. They say that the white pine branches spread out far and wide. The roots go out in the four directions. Anybody seeking peace need only trace those roots back to the Confederacy, trace them back to our teachings of how we are to live in peace, how we come to have peace within. It's through love and forgiveness. That is such a huge part of who we are as human beings, and learning that particular teaching is love and forgiveness. This piece here is a bas-relief of a family in Jamesville. Clay. And this is one of the biggest clay pieces I've ever done. And then again, this is a mother and baby, a young lady. I did a series of women's stick pins in honor of women being life givers. And of course, the other piece is a shell and stone. This piece here on your left is, again, in honor of the plant life, that feminine plant that feminine energy coming from the plant. So that's turquoise, carved from moose antler on curly maple. And the piece, the bands on the right are the eagle. And this was a commission piece, a set of wedding bands for a couple that was getting married. And it was the eagle, we say, that flies the highest, that watches over all things, warning us of danger. So that's the United States took that symbol from the Haudenosaunee of the eagle being the nation bird. But in our sense, we say it's the eagle that carries all of our thoughts and our good prayers to the Creator. So this set of wedding bands has the eagle hits on it. The piece on the left, the antler, holding the 2-row treaty belt. Now this is a treaty that was done with the Dutch. This is one of our very first treaties between the Haudenosaunee and the Dutch. And we say that we would stay in our own boat or our own canoe, that we would work side by side, and that we wouldn't try and interfere in each other's government. We would stay in our own canoe, they would stay in their own ship or boat. And you can't cross over or ride two boats. So that's why our teachings are so important to us. The Haudenosaunee have lived by this treaty, and we are still considered a sovereign. We are still a sovereign people in New York State. The piece on the right, the eagle, it's not a great photograph, but this is a walking stick. And that's the wampum, the quahog shell in the back. And that quahog shell is what I talked about, that we made that I went to use to create the ceremony. But also they say that when we hold the wampum, that is our purest form of truth. When we speak, you'll see a lot of our leadership, they hold the strands of wampum when they speak, because that represents our purest form of truth. And that's made out of oak and a moose antler. This piece here is a bronze piece, and the piece on the left is what I initially carved. That is a caribou antler. And this represents a Haudenosaunee call for peace. And in this piece, it's not a great photograph again, but you can probably see it better in the bronze, where the face is, and that's to represent Taradaho. And he had snakes in his hair, where there was, and where he was coming in with such force. On the back side of this sculpture, there's Tecumseh, the first clan mother, and she has rays of sun coming from her face. The hand above represents the hand combing the snake from the hair to smooth the mind, to soothe the mind, to clear the mind, is combing of the hair. And the belt that is in the hand is a symbol of the Haudenosaunee, the 5 nations before the Tuscarora were adopted. And the center is a tree of peace, that white pine tree where our weapons of war are buried. And of course, the eagle that holds us up, that holds the Confederacy up. So that is called the Haudenosaunee Call for Peace. These are a series of women's stick pins I did in honor of women being life givers. In different stages of life, the young woman, the young girl, the mother and baby, the woman who is well seated in who she is and who knows what she's doing in her life and where she's going, and in the seat in the council. So that's what those 5 pieces represent. The piece on the top is a design I did that represents the water and the Mother Earth and their connection between there. The pieces on the bottom are jewelry and heart designs woven in, basket designs. And this was called Otahuni, which was on Sam's Club Online jewelry. They're not on there anymore, but I had one there briefly. These represent the eagle's flight, the eagle coming down to carry our tobacco, the eagle going back to carry our prayers. So this piece represents that power, that strength that comes down from above. To your far left is the Sacagawea coin that I did. And I did her, and that's a 1 foot height that I did in a relief. The center is a cradle board. That was the first cradle board I did for my granddaughter. And that was the back. And then of course the next one over is another cradle board of someone of the Turtle Clan that I created. And those are all custom made with the particular clans. The one in the center, my granddaughter, she was from the Lakota Nations, and Little Shell was their area. And of course, a woman from Turtle Clan that had me make that piece for her son. This piece I'm very proud of. This was this is in Seneca Falls, and this is Laura Cornelius Kellogg, and she was a very strong proponent of the Oneida people. As you may or may not know, the Oneida people sided with the Americans in the Revolutionary War. And therefore, we were guaranteed our homelands, 5.5 million acres through central New York, because we sided with the Americans in the Revolutionary War. However, that dwindled down to 32 acres, which is where I grew up. And Laura Cornelius Kellogg was very vocal about the work of the Oneidas, and worked very hard at some of our rights and responsibilities to the land. So this is a sculpture that I did, and she is a 9-foot bronze sculpture now in Seneca Falls. And she had a great quote in there. This is her quote. "It is an astonishment to me that in this 20th century that you white women are only now claiming what has always been the Indian women's privilege as far as back as history traces." And that is on the bottom of that, of her sculpture. And there's also, this is called The Ripples of Change, done with an artist named Jane D. Decker. And I was very honored to be at first a consultant. And then she said, "Diane, I would love your energy on this piece. Would you come out?" And I'm like, yeah. So I flew out to Colorado and worked in her studio with her, which is actually her studio here. And behind you can see Harriet Tubman, which is the one that she did, Sojourner Truth, and Susan Kaufman, right? So she did those pieces, and I was very honored to do Laura Cornelius Kellogg. This piece here also represents Sky Woman. And this is on butternut, and this is about a 5-foot piece. But again, this is to bring forward the acknowledgement and the importance of recognizing our teachings, that we come from sky world. We're star beings. We come from the stars. So we've not we have these incredible energy that we come with. That's what I talk about when I talk about our energy, because we're from the stars. from Sky World. This piece here represents the lightning, reminding us to always give thanks, to the elements. Because, sometimes we get scared when it's thunder and lightning. In our teachings, we are told that we're to go out and give thanks. Give thanks that the lightning is continuing their duties, that the thunder is continuing their duties, because we all have duties. We all have responsibilities. Nature is our relative, not our resource. And I love that saying because Oren Lyons quoted that. And I think that it's something so important that we need to remember as human beings. It's not our resource, it's our relatives. So to be mindful of all living things and all that we've been given is just an amazing, amazing gift that we have. So this piece here is called Doctrine of Flora and Fauna. Now, I don't know how many of you have heard of the doctrine of discovery, but when the Columbus came here with a doctrine of discovery, or whoever it might have been, I don't know my history, sorry, but they came here with a doctrine of discovery saying, well, who's ever not Christian, we have a right to take your land. We have a right to take, if you're not Christian, we have a right to this, and you don't have any rights. So they came, and in those paper bowls, it says that there was just flora and fauna here. They saw indigenous people as just flora and fauna. So this piece is called The Doctrine of Flora and Fauna. So I guess it's kind of a more of a political statement piece, but to see how silly it was that these doctrines are still being used. They were cited as recently as 2005 in the United Nations land claims case. Now, like I said earlier, we are guaranteed our homelands, 5.5 million acres, for siding with the Americans in the Revolutionary War. But Ruth Bader Ginsburg cited the doctrine of discovery and shut down all of the land claims from that decision. So you can see that this doctrine is pretty crazy. This year is at in Cazenovia at the Sculpture Park in Cazenovia, Stone Quarry Art Park. And this is a white pine I planted there. And this represents, of course, our Tree of Peace. Now, there was a chief named Jake Swamp Gehe who passed, and he went around the world. And from what I understand, he planted over 300,000 white pine trees so there would be peace on earth. So this piece here, what I did is I buried weapons of words underneath the tree. I collectively asked everyone for words that would create negativity, war, hurt, pain, and I wrote them down and buried them underneath this white pine tree. And then I have it's not a good photograph of the piece now, but I do have like 4 white ash trees, young saplings going in the 4 directions. And there I put a bench there with a Haudenosaunee Confederacy over it. And around that tree, there are signs. So if you ever get the chance to go out to Cazenovia, go to the Stone Quarry Art Park. There's the teachings all the way around that tree that say we are to come together as one so there can be peace on earth again. There's also one of these at Wells College that I put in the Cayuga Territory, the Tree of Peace, planted a white pine tree. And that I was very thrilled to see it still growing. So this tree is maybe about double in size by now. So thank you. Thank you very much. And if I have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Please join me in thanking. We do have time for our Q&A, so those that are online, feel free to drop questions. I do see some already in the chat, but I'll start with anyone in our room here who may have questions. Feel free to raise your hand. The speakers are on above us, so we don't need to pass a microphone. And while we're Because I don't see a hand or anything, I'm going to jump into a question right here.
I have one, Chanel.
Oh, okay, Jennifer.
Thank you so much for sharing the teachings and the wisdom that are just a part of your beautiful pieces. And I was curious, I mean, you use so many different types of materials, and some of them seem very strong and fragile at the same time, like the pelvis of a caribou or a shell. And I was just curious if you could share a little bit about like what tools you use and a little bit about the process.
Oh my goodness. Well, when I first started carving, I was with Play-Doh. And then as I moved on from Play-Doh up to clay, I fell in love with clay. Studied at the Institute of American Indian Arts out in Santa Fe. And I went to IAI there, and my instructor was Auntie Lolama, a lovely, lovely lady who was the first Charles Lolama wife, which was her claim to fame. Anyways, she made me really fall in love with clay. You know, she'd say, smell it, taste it. It's of the earth. It's part of who we are. So that kind of sparked using the clays. But then as I continued on with my artwork, I moved into wood, and I thought, wow, this is so cool, you know, trying different kind of woods, the beauty of the black walnut, and, you know, just chisel and, you know, hammer, and going on to the stone, and every material I tried, I just loved it more and more and more. I was just like, oh, this is so cool, you know. And people would ask me, what's your favorite material to work in? And I'm like, whatever I'm working on, that's my favorite material. So as I grew as a sculptor, you know, obviously I had more tools and more tools. With the shells, you have to work underwater, you know, with the stone. You know, I used to have like real muscle with a hammer and chisel with a stone, and then an air hammer. I was a demonstrating artist down in Santa Fe. I lived out there for about 10 years. And I was a demonstrating artist at Indian Market. And I had a huge air compressor and air hammer with a big chunk of stone, and, you know, stone flying all over the place. And, you know, as I grew as an artist and found more tools and more tools, you know, I loved it more and more. And I have like little tiny dental tools. I have big, you know, pneumatic tools, all different kinds of tools. So, you know, I'm always taking, you know, my sons, or, you know, my daughter will go to garage sales and look for tools and what they have there. And, you know, I took a little bit of welding. And so, yeah, I'm just, you know, whatever tools I can come across, whatever materials I can come across, I enjoy it all. And some are very, very fragile. I've done little tiny miniatures that were an inch high, you know, and up to my 9-foot bronze. So, you know, I love every bit of it. You know, and working at Syracuse University, there I'm a spiritual advisor. So that's where I talk about that connection, that creativity, that, you know, that peace within. That's how we achieve that. That's how we can get to that peace within, is using your own natural gifts, your own natural talents. And, you know, like I tell the students, if you find something that you're doing it, whether it's writing or painting or whatever, when the time just flies by, you're like, oh my gosh, it's been 2 hours already. Well, that's one of your gifts. That's how you know one of your gifts are. So yeah, I like a little bit of everything.
Thank you.
Sure.
To piggyback on that question, Jeremy Ramos, someone who you may know well, he said, thank you, Diane. I wondered if you could share a bit about ways to encourage people to connect to art in our daily lives when it feels like there's not enough time to do it right.
Well, really, it starts out with giving thanks and acknowledging what you have. You know, in today's society, it seems like we need more money, we need more work, we need more this, and it's true. We do need money to live. We do need, you know, certain things in our lives, but can we live sustainably off the land if we had to? Would we survive if we had to live off what we grew, what we caught? In reality, everything is provided for us. And so making that time, we are equally important as the things that have been provided for us in nature. So we have everything that we need in here. So making that time, making that space, I don't want to use the word time, making that space for ourselves is so key and so important. Take the time to start thanking Sungwa Ditsu, thanking you for the love and the care. When you hear who have heard birds chirping in the morning? Nobody told them to start chirping, did they? No, they chirp because that's what they do. They are living their life because they're chirping. They're living their life and communicating and doing what they're supposed to do. The same with the elements that we don't think move, the trees or the grass, or these are all living elements. We too are part of that. So we're just as equally important as everything surrounding us. So that's where you find that space. Because we are that precious. We are that important. We are that valuable. We come here with incredible energy and incredible gifts. We are amazing beings, and acknowledging that, because that peace within is so important. It's so important.
Thank you. Thank you. We have a question that came through. I would love to hear about Diane's neckwear.
Oh, my neckwear. Oh, well, this is a design, and I wish I could do the artist. I don't, but this is kind of replicated of some of our treaty belts, some representative of some of our treaty belts. For example, you know, this is how we come together. This is who we are as Haudenosaunee people. You know, this represents the four directions, the nation. So, you know, it could represent almost everything I've talked about today. So, you know, this, I don't know the artist again, but these necklaces you'll see on different Haudenosaunee people here and there. So thank you.
Thank you. Other questions in the room?
You said your mother was an artist. Are any of your children artists?
Yeah, yes, they are. Yes, thank you for asking. Yes, my son right here, he's an amazing painter. He does artwork. My younger sons all do artwork. My daughter is an artist in a different way. She has an organization called Rematriation, and it's a nonprofit in Syracuse, and that is to bring and lift women's voices up. So she has amazing symposiums and gatherings of women's gatherings. So yeah, they're all artists, certainly in their own way, for sure. So thank you for that question. Yeah, and my grandchildren. They're all a bunch of little artists, and I love it. I love it. I have a wall in my studio where I tell each one of them when they come in that they have to do a painting on the wall. So I'll give them watercolors, markers, whatever, and they paint right on the wall. So I have all these little collection of paintings, which is so fun. I just love it. Yeah.
Thank you. You mentioned your dad was an artist as well. He was a guitarist, a jazz guitarist. Which professional did he sing with or play with?
Oh, he played with Duke Ellington. He was a jazz guitarist, and he played with Duke Ellington. So we would go to Duke Ellington's house when we were little. And my sister Joanne, like I said, she was a little bit older than me. And you know, I remember seeing her on stage at 6 years old, and my father was playing with her, you know, and she would just belt out songs like, you know, the leaves of brown came tumbling down, you know, and she would just this voice she had. So when I was in Santa Fe, I came back and she was like, Diane, why don't you come and sing with me? And I'm like, I don't know. And so she would go through the harmonies with me, and I started harmonizing with her. And so I was very blessed and fortunate to travel the world with her. We've sung around the world. She was one of the first natives to win a Grammy. She had 24 CDs. And, you know, like I said, her music is played in BOA systems around the world, healing centers, birthing centers. I gave birth to my children by her music. Just an incredibly gifted singer. And we've opened for Willie Nelson, Crystal Gale, Hall & Oates. You know, in fact, we opened twice for Willie Nelson, and Willie Nelson saying happy birthday to my mother who was in the audience. So which is so cool. And he and Joanne, you know, sang together Patsy Cline songs because she could really belt out Patsy Cline. Yeah, so we've done some really amazing things. She wined and dined with Frank Sinatra, you know, Smokey Robinson came to our show, kissed my hands, beautiful, beautiful. So, you know, name dropping. But yeah, we really did some amazing things and had an amazing career singing with her. So I was very blessed, and you know, it was greatly my father's influence because my father was also a pine tree chief of the Beaver Clan. So, like I said, we're matrilineal. We follow our mother's side. So we are all Wolf Clan, and my children are all Wolf Clan because we follow the matrilineal line. But my father was from the Beaver Clan of the Onondaga Nation. So, yeah, I was very, 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 very blessed to have very artistic parents.
Well, thank you.
Yeah.
And we have some other thank yous that are coming in as well. Thank you for a wonderful presentation, sharing your gorgeous art with us as well. And it looks like just in the last few minutes, a question came through. How receptive are non-Haudenosaunee students to your counseling?
You know, I thank you for that question because, you know, I find that students that come to me are seeking spiritual connection. You know, I have students from around the world, students that come in that are seeking that connection. They feel disconnected or, you know, why am I here? And, you know, the Syracuse area, the Haudenosaunee Confederacy is the birthplace of democracy. This is where peace was established. So it's not by accident that students come to the center of the Confederacy seeking that peace. I remember years ago, we had people from the Congolese come and give a presentation, and there was a few chiefs there. And the chiefs got up and said, it's not by accident that you came to this place because this is a birthplace of democracy. This is where peace was established. So it's not by accident people come here. So the non-native students that come to see me are from around the world seeking that connection. How do I feel more connected? How do I find my roots? How do I feel that peace? Because, you know, when you leave your lands and come to a different land, you no longer have that connection until you start acknowledging the nature, acknowledging what's around you, acknowledging the land. Very, very important to be acknowledged and to acknowledge where you're from, who you are, what you have in your life. That acknowledgement is so, so important. And giving thanks. You know, I go back to giving thanks and being grateful.
Well, and on that note, you took us right to 1 o'clock, just about. Do we have any closing questions, burning questions? Well, please join me again, once again, and thank you. Thanking us with your presence, and for those of you that like to chat with her, feel free to do so. As a reminder, our next session will be in the class of the auditorium of the class of what is it? The class of 62 auditorium next week. Thank you all. We'll see you soon.
Thank you for coming.